In just 4 years, Creedence Clearwater Revival created 9 top 10 hits and made Fantasy Records tens of millions of dollars. Then in 1980, their leader John Fogerty made a shocking decision. He signed away his rights to every penny from those songs. But while Fantasy celebrated their victory, they didn't realize one thing. John Fogerty was about to spend the next 43 years plotting the ultimate revenge against the music industry. The rise of Creedence Clearwater Revival. In 1968, 4 high school friends from El Cerrito, California, were about to shake up the rock music scene. John Fogerty, his brother Tom, Stu Cook, and Doug Clifford transformed from a struggling local band into Creedence Clearwater Revival, setting the stage for one of rock's most remarkable runs. In a music scene dominated by psychedelic rock and flower power, CCR stood out. John Fogerty's distinctive voice and songwriting created a unique sound, a powerful mix of rock, country, and blues that painted vivid pictures of the American South. Despite being from the San Francisco Bay Area, Fogerty's lyrics transported listeners to a world of bayous, riverboats, and small-town life. Their breakthrough came with their debut album's extended version of Susie Q, reaching the top 40 and earning them a gold record. What followed was extraordinary. Between 1968 and 1972, Creedence Clearwater Revival embarked on a hit-making spree that few bands have matched, releasing 7 albums and 9 top 10 singles. The numbers tell the story. Fantasy Records was earning $100,000 a month just from Proud Mary alone. Songs like Bad Moon Rising, Fortunate Son, and Have You Ever Seen the Rain dominated radio stations and became anthems for a generation grappling with social and political upheaval. CCR's appeal crossed all boundaries. Rock fans, country lovers, and blues enthusiasts all claimed them as their own. John Fogerty's prolific songwriting drove this success. Fortunate Son captured the anger of the Vietnam era, while Who'll Stop the Rain spoke to the disillusionment of the late 1960s. His ability to write both radio hits and protest songs set CCR apart in an increasingly divided America. But success came with a price. By 1971, tensions were rising. Tom Fogerty left the band, and the remaining members struggled with John's leadership style. Behind their chart, success lurked a darker reality. The contract they'd signed in their early days was about to cast a long shadow over their future. The music industry's biggest success story was about to become its most notorious cautionary tale. The band that rose from humble beginnings to conquer the charts was heading toward a legal battle that would change music history forever. The Devil's Bargain. While Creedence Clearwater Revival's music was topping charts, John Fogerty was about to learn a tough lesson about the music industry. In 1968, he signed a contract with Fantasy Records that would cause him headaches for decades. The deal with Fantasy, a small independent label, seemed normal for a new band in the late 1960s, but the fine print had some nasty surprises. Fantasy got ownership of the master recordings and publishing rights to all of CCR's music. This meant the label, not the band, would control how their songs were used and make money from them. The bad blood began with Fantasy's owner, Saul Zaentz. A former jazz record salesman, Zaentz had bought Fantasy Records for $1 million in 1967. Despite CCR generating nearly 90% of Fantasy's revenue, Zaentz consistently undermined Fogerty's creative control. He even tried forcing the band to raise their concert ticket prices against Fogerty's wishes, leading to bitter confrontations. Using just $1 million of borrowed money, Zaentz had gained control of a band that would soon generate over $100 million in revenue, one of the most lopsided deals in rock history. The contract's specifics were brutal. CCR would receive just half the standard royalty rate, about 9 cents per album instead of the industry standard 18 to 25 cents. Even worse, they were required to deliver 180 songs over 5 years, a punishing schedule that would strain any band. As the years went by, Fogerty got more desperate to break free from Fantasy. Things came to a head in 1980 when he made a choice that would affect the next 25 years of his career. Fogerty was free, but freedom came at an enormous cost. He wouldn't see a penny from his own songs for the next 25 years, while Fantasy Records continued making millions from his work. It was a desperate move that would lead to years of bitter lawsuits, but Fogerty saw no other way out. As he faced an uncertain future, his battle with the music industry was far from over. The Silent Years, Fogerty's musical exile. Imagine walking away from your life's work, the songs that defined a generation. That's exactly what John Fogerty did. But why would a rock legend choose to stop performing his biggest hits, potentially leaving millions on the table? The answer shows just how far Fogerty was willing to go in his fight against the music industry. In 1985, John Fogerty released his comeback album, Centerfield. It was a big hit, but something was missing. During the tour, Fogerty made the bold choice not to play any Creedence Clearwater Revival songs. This was his way of standing up to Fantasy Records and its owner, Saul Zaentz. Fogerty's decision had big consequences. Fans at his shows were often let down when they didn't hear the old hits. Radio stations were less eager to play his new songs without the draw of CCR classics. Fogerty had to start from scratch, building his career on just his new work. The money side of things took a big hit too. Live shows are where musicians make a lot of their money, especially those with a bunch of hit songs. By not playing CCR songs, Fogerty missed out on ticket sales, merchandise money, and sponsorship deals. He also couldn't cash in on using his old songs in movies, commercials, and other stuff. Industry experts estimated Fogerty lost upwards of $50 million during his exile years, $30 million in touring revenue alone, plus another $20 million in licensing and commercial uses. Fantasy Records, meanwhile, earned over $100 million from CCR's catalog during the same period. Fogerty's stand earned him respect throughout the music industry. He became a symbol of artistic integrity, and this reputation would prove valuable in the legal battles ahead. The battle begins, Fogerty versus Fantasy Records. The stakes were enormous. Fantasy Records was now earning over $40 million annually from CCR's catalog, while Fogerty had to watch every song he wrote generate money for the people trying to destroy him. Even more insulting, Zaentz had used CCR's royalties to finance the Oscar-winning film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, investing Fogerty's money without giving him a cent of the profits. In 1985, Fantasy Records launched a lawsuit that left the music industry stunned. They accused Fogerty of copying himself. The label claimed his new solo hit, The Old Man Down the Road, was too similar to Run Through the Jungle, a song he had written for CCR years earlier. Since Fantasy owned the rights to Run Through the Jungle, they argued Fogerty was infringing on their copyright by creating a song that sounded too much like his earlier work. In a move that would go down in music legal history, Fogerty brought his guitar to the courtroom. His defense strategy was simple but effective. He would play both songs for the jury, demonstrating that while they shared his trademark sound, they were distinct compositions. He broke down the musical structures of both songs, highlighting their differences in melodies, chord progressions, and lyrics. The jury sided with Fogerty, ruling that The Old Man Down the Road did not infringe upon Run Through the Jungle. This victory set a significant precedent in copyright law, affirming that artists couldn't be punished for having a recognizable style. But the win came at a steep price: over $1 million in legal fees defending himself against the accusation. This injustice would fuel the next phase of Fogerty's legal battle, taking his fight all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court showdown. After spending $1 million defending his right to sound like himself, John Fogerty wasn't done fighting. He was about to take on the entire music industry in front of the Supreme Court. The case centered on a simple question with huge implications. Should successful defendants in copyright cases get their legal fees paid? This battle was bigger than Fogerty. It would determine whether record companies could use expensive lawsuits to bully artists into submission. Fantasy's lawyers argued that making them pay Fogerty's legal fees would encourage more artists to fight back against labels. Ironically, that's exactly what Fogerty wanted. He saw how major labels used their deep pockets to intimidate musicians, often forcing them to settle rather than risk financial ruin in court. In a unanimous decision that shook the music industry, all 9 Supreme Court justices sided with Fogerty. The ruling meant that artists who successfully defended themselves against false copyright claims could recover their legal fees, leveling the playing field between musicians and record companies. For the first time, David had a real shot against Goliath, but Fantasy Records wasn't finished with John Fogerty yet. Despite his legal victories, they still controlled his most valuable asset, the rights to his CCR songs. As the 1990s began, Fogerty would need more than legal wins to reclaim his legacy. A new hope. By 2004, things looked bleak for John Fogerty. He'd won in court, but lost 25 years of royalties, giving up an estimated $40 million in earnings to escape Fantasy Records. Then came a phone call that would change everything. Norman Lear, the legendary TV producer, had just led Concord Music Group's purchase of Fantasy Records. He made Fogerty an unprecedented offer: full artist royalties restored, creative control over his music's use, and a say in how CCR's legacy would be preserved. Zaentz's relationship with Fogerty had become legendarily toxic. He had personally sued Fogerty for $142 million over various disputes, and Fogerty had retaliated by writing Zans Kant Dans, a thinly veiled attack song he was later forced to rename. Now, with Zaentz out of the picture, healing could begin. "For the first time in my adult life," Fogerty said, "I can play my own songs without feeling sick to my stomach." He celebrated by releasing The Long Road Home in 2005, mixing CCR classics with his solo work. The album went gold, proving his audience had never forgotten him. Yet despite this victory, Fogerty wasn't done. He had one final move to make, one that would complete his decades-long quest for independence: the final victory. In January 2023, John Fogerty made a big move that surprised the music industry. He bought most of Creedence Clearwater Revival's publishing rights from Concord Music Group. This was a huge step in Fogerty's long fight to get back control of his music. Fogerty and his team were smart about timing. They used the upcoming U.S. copyright reversion law as leverage. This law would have given Fogerty some rights back when his songs turned 56 years old. This clever approach helped them get a good deal. The deal was risky. CCR's catalog is worth millions, so Fogerty was betting big. But for him, owning his songs again was worth the gamble. Fogerty paid an estimated $120 million for the publishing rights, a figure that shocked the industry but made sense given CCR's catalog generates about $25 million annually in publishing revenue. Even approaching age 80, Fogerty was willing to bet big on his songs' future value. Now, Fogerty controls much of his catalog. He can decide how songs like Proud Mary and Fortunate Son are used in movies, ads, and other media. He'll also get more money from royalties. But it's not a total win. Concord still owns the original recordings. For Fogerty, this wasn't just a business deal. It was personal vindication. After 43 years of fighting, the man who wrote Proud Mary finally owned his musical legacy. While Concord still holds the original recordings, Fogerty had achieved what once seemed impossible. He won back control of his songs. The boy who once dreamed up tales of riverboats and bayous had finally outmaneuvered the industry that tried to own his voice. In 2023, the 77-year-old John Fogerty did what seemed impossible in 1980. He beat the music industry at its own game. His $120 million gamble to buy back his publishing rights wasn't just about money. It was about proving that even the biggest corporations couldn't own an artist's soul forever. The numbers tell the true story of his victory. From Fantasy Records making $100,000 a month off Proud Mary, while paying the band pennies to CCR's catalog, now generating $25 million annually, money that finally goes to its creator. After losing $50 million during his exile years and surviving a $142 million lawsuit from Zentz, Fogerty emerged not just with his music, but with his integrity intact. "I've always felt that the songs belonged to me," Fogerty said after regaining his rights. But he had done more than just reclaim his music. He had written a new chapter in music history, showing artists everywhere that it's never too late to fight back.